The moment I discovered my husband had 600 million Vietnamese dongs in debt and realized the truth. One evening, after my husband had just taken 100 million Vietnamese dongs to pay off a bank loan, I asked him a question I had been avoiding for a long time. I asked, "How much debt do we still have left?" My husband was silent for a few seconds. Then he answered calmly, "Probably about 300 million more." At that moment, my whole body went cold. Because before we got married, he told me the total debt was only 300 million. But now I finally realized the real number was 600 million Vietnamese dongs. I still remember exactly how I felt at that moment. It wasn't just shock. It wasn't just sadness. It felt like the trust inside me had just been crushed. I looked at my husband. I asked again, "What did you say?" He repeated, "There's about 300 million left." I continued, "But before we got married, you said the total debt was only 300 million. He lowered his head. After a while, he said quietly, "Back then, I hadn't calculated everything." That answer left me speechless. I'm not someone who is overly materialistic. If he had told me before the wedding that he owed 600 million, I might still have seriously considered this marriage, but at least I would have had the right to choose. And now, I felt like someone who had been pulled onto a sinking boat without knowing it beforehand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to my 3-month-old son, looking at his tiny face sleeping peacefully. One question kept repeating in my mind: where's my life going? I started calculating everything again. Our combined income is about 60 million Vietnamese dongs per month. But after rent, living expenses, debt payments, and money sent back to our hometown, almost nothing is left. Some months, we even struggle just to make the debt payments. Suddenly, I remembered the early years when I first started working. Back then my salary was only about 10 million Vietnamese dongs, but I could still live comfortably. I could buy clothes for my father. I could buy a handbag for my mother. I could even save a little for emergencies. But now, I earn 15 million a month. My husband earns 45 million. Yet my life is harder than when I was single. There are days I stand in front of the mirror and realize how much I've changed. Not because of age, but because of pressure. I don't buy new clothes anymore. I don't buy cosmetics. I don't even dare to spend money on small things for myself. Sometimes I even ask myself, whose life am I living? I used to think things would eventually get better. I used to think that if we just endured for a few years, if we could just pay off the debt, if we could just try a little harder. But every time I told myself, things will be fine eventually, another truth appeared and shattered that hope. The peak of it happened yesterday. My mother came to visit her grandson. My mother is a very simple woman. She lives in the countryside and works as a tailor. She has never earned a high income in her life, but she always tried to save little by little. Before leaving, my mother pulled me aside. Quietly, she placed an envelope in my hand. She said softly, "Take this." I asked, "What is it, Mom?" She replied, "I've been saving this for years. Keep it for emergencies." I opened the envelope. Inside was 50 million Vietnamese dongs. I know that is not a small amount for my mother. It's money she must have saved for a very long time. At that moment, I burst into tears, not because of the money, but because for the first time in a long while, I felt like someone truly cared about me. Not about reputation, not about saving face, not about relatives, just simply thinking about me. And suddenly I realized something. All this time, I had always tried to understand my husband's family, understand his responsibilities. But almost no one ever asked me if I was okay. No one asked if I was tired. No one asked if I could still endure all of this. That night I held my son in my arms. I looked at him for a long time. And then I asked myself one question: if I keep living like this, what kind of future will my child have? I used to think marrying a filial man was a good thing. But now I understand. Being filial should not mean sacrificing the entire life of your wife and children. A family is where everyone shares the burden, not a place where one person has to carry everything alone. From that moment, a decision slowly began to form inside me. I don't want to continue living like a money-making machine. I don't want my entire life to revolve around debt. I don't want my child to grow up in a life full of pressure like this. I want to live differently. I want to live for my son, for myself, and for my parents. The people who never treated me like a machine meant to carry someone else's debts. Yesterday, my mother came to visit her grandson. Before leaving, she gave me an envelope containing 50 million Vietnamese dongs, the savings from many years of sewing. At that moment, I realized who truly cares about me. If you were in my situation, would you continue enduring everything for a filial husband? Or would you choose to live for yourself and your child? Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear your opinions.